Hello everybody, Andrew Field here. I'm really sorry that I haven't come out with a video in a really long time. I've been pretty busy with school and everything like that, but I know I um, should not have taken this long to make a video, so I'm really sorry, and some of the stuff I have on here is old, but I've updated it recently, and a lot of the stuff is newer, so I hope you stick around, and I hope that you enjoy. The Senate confirmed Pete Buttigieg as Transportation Secretary. He was the first gay man to serve in a cabinet position. The House asked Trump to testify under oath, but he didn't. The impeachment trial happened, and the impeachment managers used video from Trump supporters as evidence. Representative Raskin was the lead impeachment manager, and all the impeachment managers did a really good job, I think. Um, on day one, the Senate said that that the impeachment trial of Trump was constitutional, a vote of 56 to 44. Impeachment managers on the second day showed new footage of January 6th that was never seen before. The officer that moved Senator Romney away from the mob, I think it was Officer Eugene Goodman, and he's a true patriot. He was already recognized, and I think he became the Senate in arms, so he was there because he was the one that, if you remember, that moved the white supremacist crowd away from the Senate, which gave the senators more time to leave, but he also directly moved Mitt Romney out of the way of the crowd and probably saved his life. Trump was displeased with his first appearances from his lawyers, which did not include Giuliani. Some Republican senators were obviously being disrespectful, not really caring about the trial, and they already had their mind set up. Um, on February 13th, Mitch McConnell said he would vote to acquit Trump, and soon after, Trump was acquitted for the second time in one term. He got two impeachment trials, and he was acquitted both times. But the weird thing was that Mitch McConnell, after acquitting Trump, said that what Trump did was illegal and hinted that Trump should be prosecuted, which Mitch McConnell just shows how much of a scaredy cat and horrible senator he is, because he knew that what Trump did was wrong, but he didn't want to be the one to say that or to actually vote where his mouth was, and he acquitted him, and probably convinced a lot of senators to acquit Trump. But then after the vote was already cast, he was saying that what Trump did was wrong, and he should at least be prosecuted. Or sorry, he should be prosecuted, and at least that's a good thing. But he should have voted, where his mouth went. That caused Trump to release a lengthy statement against Senator Mitch McConnell, and they were feuding, for a while. But to be honest, Trump can't even feud that much because no one's covering him on TV. He's banned from social media, like basically everywhere. Um, Although he was able to speak at this CPAC conservative horrible tour rally, so he at least got that. Senator Ben Sasse slammed Nebraska GOP committee's plan to censor him for criticizing President Trump. Merrick Garland, the committee, they just said that he'll be able, or sorry, they'll be able to vote whether they will confirm him or not. But Ben Sasse voted against Merrick Garland being the Attorney General, so he was doing well, I think, and differing with Trump, and it seemed really good. And then for some reason he didn't want Merrick Garland to be the Attorney General, so seems to be like going both ways here. I just wanted to point that out before I forgot about Ben Sasse. Trump's election lies cost taxpayers $519 million, they found, and counting. Twitter said Trump's ban is permanent. Even if he runs for president in 2024, they will still ban him. Biden said that Trump should no longer receive classified intelligence briefings. The CDC was saying schools can reopen even if teachers don't have the vaccine. Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot was pushing for in-person with safety measures, which I appreciate because I definitely want that. Where as long as there's safety measures and it's not just shoving people back into the classrooms. I'd really want things to, you know, where we'd be in person instead of all online. Atlanta Public Schools debated forcing mandatory summer school for what they called COVID-19 learning loss, which I don't think would be a good idea. I don't know if they still see that view or not. Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds signed a bill to make all school districts give an option of in-person classes. I think that's a pretty good idea if, there's safety measures, obviously. Um, in terms of the amount of Americans that died, February 4th, it was 450,000 Americans. The 22nd, sorry, February 21st, it was 497,000 Americans that died. Um, and it pretty recently passed the 500,000 mark of 500,000 Americans dying in about the span of a year from COVID-19. And just to give you perspective of that, more Americans died from COVID-19 than World War I, World War II, and Vietnam troops. Excuse me. So that was obviously a horrific mark. 500,000, half a million Americans that have died from COVID. But at least there is good news with the vaccine. There's actually a couple things that are really good news. The vaccine, they were producing 1.3 million shots a day um, back the 21st of February, but that has gone up. Um, from February 21st, it was 33 million vaccines administered. The cases and deaths are dropping pretty fast. Healthcare workers are struggling with their mental health. Um, I'll get to the good statistics later on. Wisconsin Governor Evers issued a new mask mandate minutes after Republicans voted to appeal his first one. Johnson & Johnson filed an emergency use authorization application for the one-shot COVID-19 vaccine, hoping the FDA would approve it. The CDC study found wearing a double mask or fitting a mask better to fit your face substantially reduces the risk of getting COVID-19 down. Um, so I think with that, if you wear a mask, you're in fairly good shape. Obviously, if you don't wear a mask and you go into a room, you're pretty likely to get COVID if there's COVID in the air. If you wear a mask, you're a lot less likely to get COVID. You're protecting yourself and people around you. But I think they were trying to say that if you wore two masks or you wore a mask where you tightened it where it wouldn't be loose, you'd be more likely to be safe. But I think if wearing one mask does a pretty good job on its own. Since the January 11th peak, these are the statistics. Let's see. The case numbers were down since January 11th peak, 69%. The hospitalizations are down 56%. Deaths are down 35% over the 2 weeks. The Pfizer vaccine study found it prevented 98.9% of COVID-19 deaths, which is really amazing. And the FDA approved the Johnson & Johnson's one-shot vaccine, where the Moderna and the Pfizer vaccines are two shots. Johnson & Johnson's only one, so that's a big deal. As of today, 76 million people are vaccinated, and that's why I like putting the past statistics so you can compare. Let's see. I said from February 21st they were at 33 million vaccines, and then as of March 1st they went from 33 million to 76 million. So that's a huge difference in a couple weeks. So that's really good news, obviously. There was a really crazy study that we probably, I didn't think about, and I'm sure a lot of you didn't think about, that 30% of mild COVID-19 patients still battle symptoms months later after recovering from COVID. The body, the body might be attacking itself, they say, where I think they're trying to say that after COVID left, the body might think that COVID's still there, so there's these symptoms that people are feeling a lot after COVID, usually leaves. Um, some really, it's not really shocking, but really pathetic news that came out today was Donald and Melania Trump both received COVID-19 vaccines before leaving office. Because, of course, the rat did. I mean, the guy that was talking down coronavirus the whole time, the guy who couldn't wear a mask, the guy who had these big social gatherings at the White House, also his rallies where he had tens of thousands of people inside a stadium or somewhere, and they all weren't wearing masks, and he was on a pedestal, and he ended up getting COVID. So of course he gets a vaccine before he leaves the office. The guy who deserves getting the vaccine, probably least in the country, was able to cut healthcare workers and frontline workers to get the vaccine. Pretty pathetic, but I would say there's not much that sounds more like Donald Trump than that. The winter storm was disrupting the vaccine rollout. There was a winter storm that caused millions to be without power in Texas and other parts of the country, but Texas was hardest hit. More than a dozen people died. A Texas mayor was removed after releasing a horrible Facebook post, not caring about Texans' needs. Speaking of horrible representatives in Texas, I'm sure you all heard about the idiot Ted Cruz, who flew to Cancun, Mexico, with his family amid a power crisis in Texas. So while millions of people didn't have power, didn't have heat, were struggling to probably keep warm and have food and everything like that. Like I saw, there were stores where lines of food were just all gone off the shelves. I mean, it was a terrible situation with the winter storm and the whole energy crisis there, um, with energy sources freezing. And yeah, so Ted Cruz thought, you know what, I'm going to go to Mexico. And the only reason he came back early was because of all of the people that realized how bad of a person he was. Now, I'd say it's, obviously Texans' fault for electing someone so stupid like Ted Cruz. But I was really happy of all the pushback he got for trying to fly to Mexico, while his state is literally like freezing in a freaking winter storm. So that was good at least. Um, let's see. So power was restored several days later to millions of homes in Texas. Mass outages were still in other states for a little bit, but I think they've cleared up now. Texas hotels saw a surge in people coming to the hotels from not having power in their homes. Biden did a really good job. He gave federal funds to Texas. The House of Representatives passed sweeping protections for LGBTQ protections, the Equality Act. And I just want to say about the people in Texas, I know the winter storm is gone, and I hope that everybody in Texas has been able to recover safely. There was an incident a couple weeks ago with two FBI agents who were murdered and three others that were injured after a shootout with the suspect while they were executing a search warrant in the home in Sunrise, Florida. So, of course, I'm going to say, of course, it was Florida. But obviously, very sorry to the officers that were lost and to the ones that were injured. And yeah, it's really unfortunate what happened there, and it's also unfortunate that I don't think it was covered very well, at least where I saw, where people weren't really talking about it. But the FBI does a lot for America, and yeah, it's really unfortunate. France and the U.S. called for Russia to release Navalny, who was jailed. There was a military coup in the country of Myanmar. Biden ordered a strike in Syria. It was a part in eastern Syria near the border of Iraq. It was targeting Iranian-backed militia, and it was in retaliation for a recent rocket strike in Erbil in northern Iraq, which left several Americans injured. I would think, yeah, the rocket strike. If you don't remember what happened when tensions were very high between the U.S. and Iran, I think this is what it was referencing. Was Trump killed Soleimani, like one of the highest military generals in Iran. This is back January 2020. Um, and so that happened, and then they did a rocket strike against the U.S. in Iraq, and Trump kind of played it off like it wasn't a big deal, but there were a lot of soldiers who had injuries, I think head injuries, and I think because of that, Biden did a strike. But it said it was recent, so maybe it was a separate strike. But it was a rocket strike that left Americans injured. So I'm glad that Biden responded. It didn't seem like it was a huge thing, but it seemed like it was enough where it sent a message to Iran, hey, if you mess with our troops, you're going to get attacked. That's what the standard needs to be. The White House was looking over if Biden could cancel student loan debt, by executive order, but I don't think he did that. Biden rejoined the UN Human Rights Council. That was very good. Donald Trump, a couple weeks ago, resigned from the Screen Actors Guild in a petty letter. The Senate voted today 64-33 to appoint Miguel Cardona as Secretary of Education. Doctors warned that more screen time is causing vision problems during the pandemic. By not blinking as much, blue light does a good job. The blue light blocking glasses do a good job at blocking the blue light that causes irritation in the eyes. Although they were saying that the glasses weren't enough. It's a good countermeasure to the blue light. And small breaks from electronics, they stressed. They were talking about how it's causing vision problems because you're not blinking as much because you're just staring at a screen. And when you're staring at the screen, you don't really blink as much, so it was causing a lot of problems. So I was trying to blink a bit more, and it kind of brought to light how easy it is for us to spend a lot of time on our electronics, and that creates problems. So we have to be careful. Um, the Biden administration allowed families that were separated at the border to reunite and stay in the U.S., which is a very good thing. In terms of NFL news, there was a lot of things that happened recently, but J.J. Watt went to the Arizona Cardinals, 2 years, $31 million. I just wanted to report that because, I'm glad for J.J. Watt. He seems like a great guy that puts a lot of work in and deserved to go somewhere else because Houston is just a dumpster fire at this point. And he gets to be with DeAndre, so that's cool. But I'm really glad that he went to Arizona too because I'm a big Bears. I like watching the Bears. I've been a pretty big fan lately, although it's been really difficult to watch them. And they're finally going to move on from Trubisky, who's an awful quarterback, no intelligence. Anyways, they're finally going to move on from him, and they missed Wentz, which I'm glad because he didn't want to go to Chicago. But Russell Wilson might be available, and he said he wanted to go to the Bears potentially. So that's a really good thing with J.J. Watt because he won't want to stay in Seattle with another pass rusher there. So thank you, J.J. Watt. And if Russell Wilson went to the Bears, he'd be the best Bears quarterback of all time, no question. The Fox Business Network, Lou Dobbs tonight parted ways with the pro-Trump host. Derek Chauvin, the officer who killed George Floyd, is set to be tried starting March 8th, so that's coming up. Tiger Woods got into a bad car accident pretty recently and had to have surgeries on his leg. So prayers for Tiger Woods, although I think he has been recovering. I heard CNN host Brooke Baldwin is leaving CNN in April. It was there since 2008, and I wanted to leave on a really cool piece of information that Stacey Abrams was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. So, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much if you watched the whole thing. And I hope to be coming out with news, obviously, more recently than in a month. So I'll be working on that shortly, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. Bye.